So, welcome to the Quantum Time Travel Masterclass today. So, we'll be speaking about this mythical mirror of time, and from different cultural perspectives and mythical perspectives, it's going to be interesting. So, let's start our session with a little bit of breath. So, I invite you to drop down into your breath with me for a few minutes, just to prepare our session nice and calm. Move our awareness onto our heart space for a few minutes, and some deep inhalations and exhalations as well. Allowing this life force intelligence to enter our field and to prepare us for the session forth to the wisdom teachings. So welcome once more. And well, we're going to have a lot of reading, talking, a little bit of reflection today as every session. So, Quantum Time Travel Masterclass. Here we are live today. So, there was a time, before clocks, before calendars, and before belief was bent into, let's say, kind of these borders that humans have created through time. So the legends say there was only this rhythm, like a spiral, star. Uh, Fire shamans and the Care Nation, they say that we remember time within our bones. Hermetica says, or calls this concept amanesis, and this is like the sacred remembering through the soul. So even the Buddha has taught us that time is not real, and only suffering is kind of stretching this notion of the time. So pain and suffering. So here we are, caught between some kind of past pain and some kind of future fantasy. And we often forget that the present, which is the now, is kind of this master gate to manifestation, to ultimate health, and to everything. So let's open this portal with a very cool wisdom teaching. So this notion about time it's a very dangerous truth to say today that time is not what we were taught, that it's not a line, that it's not an arrow. So time is not the enemy in the way we can say time is not even ours. Time is like this field, a spiral. It's like a mirror to ourselves, and it bends to our perception. And we know from psychology that perception is programmable, very much programmable, especially when we reach our middle age, around the age where we are. Very programmable humans are. So the care of fire shamans say that time is spiraling like a serpent, and that we live in these three rivers simultaneously. So they call one of these rivers Napa, and this is kind of this ancestral past. It's like the root memory or the unborn potential. So there's this other time notion with the Care Nation called Kunan. And this is the moment of now, the present moment. And they say that this is where awareness is piercing illusion. It's only happening in the now. So in the third concept called Kippa, and this is very interesting. It's like the future behind us. And it's kind of the future is watching already, and it's already shaping us. So This view is then radically different from the way we look at time in the Western societies. And during this industrial age, to measure productivity, what kind of clocks, they became gods, and schedules, they replaced what humans have always did, ceremony, ritual, from very ancient times. Even when we were in the caves, we were holding ritual together, warming our hands by the fires. It'd be ceremonial, very old times. So in Caroline age, the relationship with time is kind of like this relationship with prophecy as well. So we are either fulfilling someone else's prophecy or we are rewriting our own. And we can then say if a trauma that we carry is like this temporal echo and it's looping within our experience because nobody taught us to understand time in a better way so that we can collapse this notion of the pain and suffering that we carry through our traumas so often. So from a scientific point of view, this loop of memory is called psychologically the default mode network. And neuroscience is confirming this notion, what shamans always knew, that the brain has this default mode, the DMN. It's kind of replaying our story unless we disrupt it. And it plays kind of these familiar thoughts, emotional patterns, and also time warped trauma. So this is why we relive breakups or war zones or betrayals, or even decades later, this emotional body of ours is kind of not speaking this ordinary Gregorian time, the calendar as we use it. It speaks frequency still. And then when something traumatic happens, it carves this groove in our neurology, and our body then says, I must be prepared for this could happen again. And then we stay in the traumatic loop because we are readying ourselves for the next loop of trauma recall. And this can teach us that what we do not transform, we in a way repeat. And what we repeat, we believe is real. And then this is giving the birth to this false prophecy. When we get stuck in our trauma and we create this for ourselves. Well, how can we then break this myth? We can look at it from different mythological perspectives and a little bit of more science as well. So in Norse mythology, the Norse, they say that there were these three ancient trees, and they were sitting at the base of this place called Yggdrasil. It's this very large world tree spread there. And they were kind of spinning these threads of fate for every being through this world tree, Yggdrasil. And in every myth, in almost every ancient culture, similar stories are told. For example, the Greeks called these the Morai. The Hindus have called them the Kala Chakra, the wheel of time. And these are the chakras, the energy centers. And still this wisdom, it remains the same with all these cultures. And then we realize that fate is woven and that fate can be rewritten as well. So they say that the fate can be rewritten only by those who awaken within the dream. And this is an interesting notion because they mean that this is the dream time. Our waking time is the dream time. And this is actually pointing on the spiritual awakening. This is to be awakened while still dreaming. Because in the mythological notion, we are dreaming now with our eyes open. And to be awakened within this dream is to be spiritually awakened, to be on this path. So this is very similar to this notion of rebirth, that we have been through. And this is a continuous thing, I think, the spiritual awakening. It never stops. It's an evolutionary path. So how can a fire shaman view in time then? So the fire shamans of the Andes, they carry this different like map of time. And it's hidden within these medicinal mesas. They're kind of their personal altars. And when stones or the kuyas in the mesas are being read, they're also placed in this visualized spiral, non-linear, spiral-shaped placing within the mesa cloth. And the core belief of that is that the future is a field that is always listening, and we kind of don't have to chase it. We have to tune into this future. And then we can call it present through energy and choice. So this is why the Kero says the future is coming from behind us. Then we're kind of going towards it in that way. So this should make a sense in an abstract way. So this is also why people gather in these sacred containers, because when intention gathers, then the sacred container can speak a new prophecy into being, so that the tribe or the circle can go empowered. So we have reached the point where there are a few reflection questions, and I'm just going to read them, and if something speaks to you, well, you're welcome to engage. This is just to kind of to be able to reflect upon how can we understand this notion of removing the trauma loop from our past and installing this prophecy which will be aligned with our best destiny path for the future. So one of the reflective questions is, what is one belief about time I inherited that no longer serves me? So we can also ask ourselves, do I believe that I'm running out of time or running towards it? This is interesting. And another question, if I could collapse one loop, what would it feel like to be free? And this is connected to this notion that we sometimes re-traumatize ourselves by staying in the loop with old thoughts and sometimes reworking our old traumas, which is good in itself. But the awareness of that we are actually able, by the change of our belief systems in the conscious mind, to rearrange these old traumatic loops and really have a future which is clear on the path without re-traumatizing ourselves. So these questions are worth thinking about in that context. So let's talk a bit about timeline collapse and the frequency of the self. So if we say that we want to travel into this very second, this very moment, and this is kind of like this chamber of this master time spiral, where we not just remember time, but we can rewrite the time through our energy body. And to understand this, we can begin with this core principle. The time is actually broadcast through the body. And if our thoughts then shape the perception of the time, well, then they become our frequency, and then our frequency shapes time as well. So every chakra, our energy center, every meridian, Well, each and every breath we take, or each scar that we have on our subtle body, on our light body, is kind of acting like this tuning fork towards the time. And this is why trauma is not often stored in the brain alone, but it's also in the body and in these chakra time signatures. And now let's talk a little bit about these chakra time codes. And we can look at this like the spiral of time in the spine. So let's look at these chakras, both as energy wheels and also as codes to kind of embed it in our architecture of the human being. So Hindu scriptures call the root chakra Muladhara. And this chakra, the root chakra, is carrying ancestral time. It carries the emotions of safety, the origin, and also our survival. But if trauma is placed on the root chakra, it kind of distorts these past life loops. And it creates family fear as well, and also scarcity. And we know this is very bound to our root chakras and to our lower chakras. So the sacral chakra is called Svadhisthana. And this one is storing emotional time, pleasure, creation, intimacy. And if we have wounds in the sacral chakra, well, it's kind of fracturing this creative identity of ours, and it kind of also brings this sexual timelessness as well as an issue, as a problem in sacral. So the solar plexus chakra then is called Manipura, and it's all about personal time, about the will, about action, and about power. So distortion of this solar plexus chakra will lead us to go into old roles. We will be repeating this self-doubt. So the heart chakra, Anahata, so it represents present time, the love, the connection, and also our coherence. So misalignments in this chakra kind of create these nostalgia loops, so to call them, or even heartbreak ruminations, repeated heartbreaks. So we have reached the throat chakra. It's called Vishuddha. So the throat chakra is all about prophetic time and the truth and our voice and our narrative as well. So blockages here, they kind of silence this spoken prophecy that we came here to live, this optimal destiny line that we are ought to take and walk as a path. And then the third eye, it's called Aina. This chakra is all about time perception and vision and memory and dream. So when this energy center is not functioning well, it kind of gets foggy and it disrupts this timeline of awareness, and also it disrupts our calibration. So the crown chakra, Sahasrara, is all about timelessness, unity, knowing, and field. So trauma here can show up as separation from the source. So scientific insight is that the frequency collapses into this quantum realm. And then the physics is teaching us this. A particle exists in all potential states until it's observed. And this is the observer effect. And we can call this also our attention that collapses the field into form. And then, if this attention is without frequency or unfocused, which has to come with elevated emotion like gratitude or peace or awe, which kind of gives our intention power. And then this time becomes a wave of potentials. And our emotional frequency becomes like a cursor that selects this reality that we want to live. So this is alignment. And then we can say, this is why sadness repeats sadness, or joy kind of rewires the brain towards the future joy. So we can say ceremonially that each and every fire ceremony also rewires our brain a little bit. Every breath work is kind of like this ignition and a change to understanding better our subconscious parts and programmings. So this becomes, in a way, when aligned, this quantum timeline selection. So let's talk a little bit about the medicine wheel as a map within ceremonial time. And we'll touch the Kero lineage, it's my lineage. So the medicine wheel is in this structure a living architecture of time master. So each direction is carrying a frequency. It's like a gate that we can move through. And we can start with the south, the serpent, where we are to let go of the past and we are to shed our skin, shedding our traumas. So the west, we're kind of facing this shadow of ours. And we are collapsing these karmic loops at the same time. In the north, the hummingbird, we are learning how to drink the nectar of the now, of the present. And we're kind of entering this spiral joy. Then in the east, the eagle, kind of envisioning this future from the higher perspective. So each direction here is in a way activating a specific bandwidth within our body, within our field. So when we walk this medicine wheel intentionally, we alter our resonance. And we are in a way aligning ourselves to rethread this prophecy for ourselves. We become like a time walker, you know. We become both the wind and the wheel at the same time. So let's break this down. Frequency plus emotion equals update of the field. And frequency is measurable as well. Emotions are magnetic. And then the story becomes programmable. So when we combine all these three, with breathwork, with myth, with elevated awareness, we are shifting our gravitational center. And we can pull in new experiences from the field. So we are in a way stopping to chase our future. And we are magnetizing our future to ourselves. So this is what this quantum time travel course is about. And we reach this moment. So the whole course is actually about how to embody our future selves and magnetize towards the present, embody and live. And this is the right alignment to do it with. So in this part of the session, an interesting subject as well. It's the notion of prophetic selfhood and coherence and abundance encoding of our field. So welcome to this axis point, which we mentioned in the polarity code course. This is the middle way, the harmonic point. The place where we can say where past and the future can collapse. And all then that remains is this life force around us. So we can ask an important question here at this point. Reflective question. Who would we be if our future was not conditioned by our past? And this question is very deep. It's very good for reflections by asking ourselves deeper. Well, how would our emotional frequency be today if we were not conditioned by our past, which we are? So let's be honest here. Most of us, I know myself, I am still in the process of recycling identity and keeping the coherent state stable long enough to embody my future self, which is also a practice, a discipline. This is never kind of attained once and then you got it. It's a practice of keeping this frequency of ours aligned. So from the mythical lens, across times and cultures, there were always those who were mentioned to walk beyond time. So in this Napa model, the Kippa model of the Kero, we are not born into time, we are born as time. So our future self is like this highest timeline of ours. And it's like this prophecy of ourselves which wants to guide us into our future. So this is very similar to the Nordic myths, for example, where the Norse, they were kind of weaving this fate of men, or in the Hermetica, where the soul is the divine artisan, which is crafting time through thought processing. So we can say each and every human is then encoded with a mission. And we can call it a vibrational mission. And this prophetic part of us, or the prophecy, is not written in, like people say, like in stone. It's written in our field, which means that the moment that we remember, we can rewrite this story. So let's touch a little bit the science of field coherence. So to ground this in the body a little bit, to remember ourselves, what's it all about? Because coherent state is really needed to be embodied so that we can be able to attract this future version of ourselves and embody. So we know that the heart is emitting the strongest electromagnetic signal in the body. But when brain and heart come into coherence, then and this state can be achieved through breath and combination of elevated emotion. So in that state of coherence, the body is no longer broadcasting survival or fear or separation or the past conditionings even. So instead it becomes harmonized with this unified field, the quantum field. And then it becomes magnetically attractive to these matching timelines of ours. And this, a lot of people understand like mysticism, but it's actually like this psychological science of selective reality, of us being able to select by choice which reality do we want to choose. So what we feel consistently, we can say, that we become also. And what we become, we attract again. And then what we attract is kind of confirming in which state of the field we're living. So to become our prophecy, what does this mean practically? It means that every moment that we got in this life is kind of like a choice point. Even this very moment, it's a point of truth. So each time we speak from the place of love instead of lack, we kind of collapse a lesser timeline. And then each time we breathe consciously in whatever storm we are in and practicing responsivity rather than reactivity, kind of exit this trauma loop and enter the time spiral. So we have reached a point where we are going to have this closing integration meditation, and I'm going to call it the abundance spiral. So, Trisha, I invite you to connect your heart space and let's drop down into a breath for a while. I'm going to guide us into this beautiful abundance spiral after meditation. So let's breathe into our body and feel into the center of our chest. Moving our awareness on our heart space. Now let's imagine our future self standing before us. And this is the self who walks with grace. This is the self who breathes prosperity. And this self has remembered the myth. And it is whole. Now let's imagine this spiral of light, of golden light, rising from our feet all the way to our crown. And as this radiant light spins upward, it dissolves all stories, loops, and fear. Now let's welcome the energies of abundance, coherence, and clarity into our field. As these energies merge into our field, let's see our future selves stepping into us now, into our luminous body. And let's feel this merge, the memory. Let's integrate these energies for a while inside us. In a long time, open your eyes. We have reached the end of our session. Almost, I want to close off the session actually with the invitation for this course. So this masterclass live is just a small glimpse. It's like this part of the quantum time travel that we be covering on the 5-day course. Well, we will come into the true nature of time, of what I call the selfhood and memory and remembrance of ourselves in the myths. So we will be, in a way, rewriting our own myth. So this live immersion, it has 5 full sessions, and for those who want to participate live, the price is one kind. The recorded version will be more discounted price. So quantum time workbook will be included, and we will have a lot of fun. So we will realize that our nervous system is this portal, and the breath is kind of the key between our body and our mind, the conscious and the subconscious. So I welcome you all together to this course, and Trisha, thank you to you for being here together with me today on the Masterclass live. So thanks.
Thank you.